Hey class, today we're going to continue on some info with slope, so hopefully you followed along and got the information that you needed yesterday on just finding slope. Today we're going to talk about how we can use that information and then use it to do what is called slope-intercept form. Okay, so before spring break, we actually talked about how we could make a table and we could graph and we could turn those graphs into something, right? We could take those ordered pairs, plot points on the coordinate plane, and then create these lines. Basically, what slope-intercept form allows us to do is have a workaround so that we can, it's sort of like a shortcut, okay? And slope-intercept form says that we have a general form of y equals mx plus b. And it shouldn't surprise us from the information that we learned yesterday that the m is going to be slope. Now, b is going to be a new letter. B is going to be what is our y-intercept, okay? So a y-intercept is where a line crosses the y-axis. So where it intersects the y-axis. Okay, so this isn't super creatively named, right? It's slope-intercept form, and we can find a slope and we can find a y-intercept. The good news is that to find these two things, we literally just have to use our eyeballs. So if we just look at it, we'll be able to find the two numbers that we need. Okay, so our first thing that we should be able to do is if I say something like y equals 3x plus 7. Okay, we should be able to look at this and say, well, the 3 is sitting in the same place as where the m would be, right? So y equals mx plus b. So my m, my slope, is going to be 3. Okay, and the 7 is sitting where my b goes. So my y-intercept, or my b, is going to be equal to 7. Okay, so m is 3, b is 7, slope is 3, y-intercept is 7. Okay, it really doesn't get any trickier or different than that. Okay, so I might have some negatives thrown in there or a fraction, but it doesn't matter even if you despise fractions because it's still just what number is sitting in that place. So in the m position, I have 2/3. So my slope, or my m, is going to equal 2/3. Now, in my b position, right, that sign has to come with it. So my sign is going to be -4. Okay, just like we normally do, right? The sign in front of it determines if it's positive or negative. Okay. Now, sometimes one of those values might be 0, and if there's a 0 in there, it can make something cancel out, so we can't really see it when we first look at it. For example, if I say y equals -5x, right? I don't see anything being added or subtracted here. So the slope is still what would be my m, so I'm just going to write the word slope here instead of m. But keep in mind, those are the same thing. So just because I'm writing slope instead of m doesn't mean I'm asking anything different, just a different way of asking it. Okay, so my number in front of the x is a -5. Okay, and my y-intercept, or my b value, is what's going to be added on. And I don't see anything being added on. So when I see nothing being added on, right, it's really nothing, and we represent nothing in the math world with a 0. So my y-intercept in this case will be 0. Okay. What if I have y equals 6? Now in this case, we have to be a little bit careful because it can be really tempting to say that our slope equals 6. But remember, our slope is our m, which is always in front of the x. And this 6 does not have an x sitting after it, which means we actually have no x's or 0 x's in this problem. So this really says y equals 0x plus 6. Okay, which means our slope is the one that is 0, and our y-intercept is the 6. Okay, now just like it's super easy to find those numbers, it's also super easy to be given those numbers and then to turn those numbers back into the equation. Okay, so you can work with this either way. So if I said, okay, my m is 4 and my b is 2, what equation would that be? Well, if we have y equals mx plus b, right, I'm just going to plug my 4 in for m and my b in for 2, and so I would have y equals 4x plus 2. Okay, or if I have m equals -3 and b equals -7, I could say y equals -3x. Now this is a negative, so I wouldn't want to say plus 7. I would want to say minus 7. Okay, so we can identify them super easy either way. We can go back and forth. Now, once we know this important information, it lets us take that information and represent it in a graph. Now, if we were in class, I'd talk all about why we do this and how it holds a bunch of points in storage. But we're just for right now going to learn the process and be able to graph when we are given a linear equation. So let's say that we want to graph y equals 2/3 x minus 4, which is actually that same equation we had over here in our notes. So again, if you didn't print out this paper, just pause the video for a second and draw yourself a quick 10 by 10 graph. When we want to graph in slope-intercept form, okay, the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to find m and b, just like we did a few minutes ago. Okay, so we'll say that m is 2/3, b is -4. Okay, our second step is we are going to plot b. So keeping in mind that b is our y-intercept. Okay, so this is our x-axis, and this is our y-axis. B is our y-intercept, so I want to plot -4 on the y-axis. Now, just like we talked about slope yesterday, as slope was a rise over a run, our next step is going to be to count our rise over our run. Okay, so from this point, from the point that we plotted, not the origin, not anywhere else randomly in this graph, we want to rise 2, right? We're going to go up 2, and we are going to run 3. When positive numbers tell us to go up and to go right. So I'm going to go up 2 over 3. Now, you only need 2 points to make a line, but I usually make a couple of them. It helps me actually make my line, but in Aleks, it does it perfectly for you. Okay, so I'm just going to draw my line through there, and there is my graph. Okay, so let's say we want to graph y equals -3x plus 2. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find m and b. So m is -3 and b is 2. Okay, so I'm going to start at b. So I'm going to start on my y-axis, right? My y-axis is my up and down. I'm going to start at 2. Now, my slope of -3 is my rise over my run, but my problem is that I don't see a fraction here. Okay, so if I don't see that rise over run format, just make it be there. To make it be there, you can take any number and you can put it over 1. And that will just give you how many you need to go right and left. Okay, now, negatives tell us to go left or to go down. So if we have a negative on the top, we are going left. Nope, we are going down. My brain is getting ahead of itself. If we have a negative on the bottom, we are going left. Okay, so we have a negative over a positive. So we're going to go negative down over a positive, which is right. So I'm going to go down 3 and then right 1. And again, I'm just going to do that twice because it helps me draw a better line. But in the Aleks program, it will make a perfect line for you either way. Okay. How about y equals negative 3/4 x? Okay, so step 1, we're going to find m and b. So m is going to be our number in front of x, which is negative 3/4. Just like we said on this one over here, our b is 0 because we don't see anything being added. So I'm going to start at 0. Okay, and then I'm going to do negative 3. So I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, right 4, because that 4 is positive, so I'm going right 4. Down 3, right 4. Now the last one that we need to look at is maybe slightly tricky. It fits the same format though. So what if we want to graph y equals 4? We already talked about finding the m and b, right? So we'll say m is 0 because there's no x's, and b is 4. So really we just need to stick with what we've been doing. We're going to start at 4. Starting at 4 on my y. My 0 is not a fraction, so I'm going to force it to be a fraction just like I did up here, and I'm going to put it over 1. So from here, I'm going to go up 0 over 1. Up 0 over 1, and this is just my horizontal line. Okay, so log into Aleks, do your exit slip e-learning. It's under the assignment tab. As a reminder, that will be going in the grade book. You can retake it. So let me know if you have any questions or sign up for an appointment to meet with me on my calendar. Have a good day.